Sydney's most famous sights creeps into view. The Sydney Opera House was opened by Queen Elizabeth II in 1973. It had taken some 14 years to complete due to technical, financial and political reasons. It was designed by Danish architect John Watson, who won an international competition organised by the New South Wales government. The sails of the roof contain over 1 million Swedish ceramic tiles. The power consumption of the building is equal to a town of about 25,000 people. Inside are nearly 1,000 rooms, some of which are oddly shaped because of the building's angular design. For an unforgettable night, you should see a show here or have dinner at the Bennelong restaurant. Guided tours are available at certain times depending on rehearsals and performances. This fountain, which was unveiled in 1961, is dedicated to the soldiers of the Australian 9th Division who fell at the famous Battle of El Alamein in North Africa during World War II. And it was completed in 1932. It gave over 3,000 men full-time work for 9 years during one of the worst depressions this country has seen, thus giving it the name of the Iron Lung. Today it is more commonly known, as I mentioned, the coat hanger. The opening ceremony was interrupted by one Francis de Groot, who decided that in the name of King and Empire, he should be the one to open it instead of the governor. He rode forward on his horse and cut the ribbon with his sword. As you guessed, he was quickly led away by the authorities while the ribbon was put together, reset, and the opening proceeded without further interruption. The bridge was designed by Sir John Bradfield and is said to be based on the cap badge worn by the Australian soldiers depicting the rising sun. Today it is possible to climb the bridge that gives spectacular views. However, it is not for the faint-hearted. Paul Hogan of Crocodile Dundee fame was once a painter on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. True story. If you'd like to explore this area of Sydney, you will need to alight at our stop here at Campbell's Cove. If you'd like to use the monorail, you should get off at our next stop, where a short walk will take you to Darling Park Station.
And I'm going to, to ring it, you just pull the tongue towards you till it hits the bell. So it's bang, 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 bang. I'll get out of the photo.
Just move your head as you go.
Just step up there and...
Are you ready? Am I ready?
Yeah, whenever you're ready. Perfect, perfect. You've done that before. Yeah, that's it. Just that's lovely. That'll be fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay. 98.
Wow.
It's a little 98-foot sailing ship, so there was one person to every foot. I think that was an accident. I don't think it was designed that way.
That's a small galley to produce that amount of food.
Well, it's pretty basic. They didn't go to a lot of trouble.
When you're doing nothing but hardtack and slop, it's...
Yeah, they didn't go to a heck of a lot of trouble. Okay, well we're going to talk a little bit about what they used to eat. This is salty pork, and it's in, and they also have barrels of salted beef. And it's very, very salty brine, and that meat will keep in there for up to 3 years. When it's time to use some of it for any one of the meals, they take it out, take the pieces out they want, The mesh bags that you saw, they have similar bags like that, and they put it in the mesh bags and they float it out the back of the ship. So as the ship is going along, it washes the really salty brine out of it. But of course, it's still pretty salty. So that's why they drank a lot. So it was fairly salty.
So what was that?
Okay, this is sauerkraut. It has its own story. It's pickled cabbage. And about this time, or prior to Cook sailing here, the disease of scurvy had risen up, and scurvy started to come up when the world was getting bigger and people were staying at sea longer and longer, and they were then being deprived of their proper vitamins for a longer period of time, because the meals they had on board in those days were not very healthy meals. So captains like Captain Cook were experimenting to try and get rid of this problem. It would be normal for a ship to take 15% more crew than they needed, because they would probably lose about that many to scurvy on their voyage. So they had pretty much worked out that it must be the diet, it must be the lack of vitamins, and so he took sauerkraut, high in vitamin C. Because it's pickled cabbage, it also lasts a long time, and it was pretty successful. He had 2 or 3 outbreaks of scurvy, but they were all cured, and so that was a disease that pretty soon became irrelevant in the maritime world. The interesting thing about the sauerkraut is when the crew saw it, they said, "We don't want to eat that." And he said, "Well, that's okay, it's only for the officers." So then they wanted it. It's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what you get when they very stick and making hard work or so.
Sorry if I sit next to you. Cheers.
These are just the officers' cabins where they'd sleep. There's 3rd lieutenant, the master, 2nd lieutenant, and the doctor. They'd sleep here and they'd go up in the office mess up above for eating and working. The actual area is referred to as the middy mate's mess, where they would eat and that sort of thing. Otherwise, it's just the sleeping quarters, really.
Володь, пойдем сюда, здесь. Ну давайте там.
Oi, Jono. Josh, lights.
Well, it might snap at you. So look at this one.
Oh, the colors?
Yeah. That's amazing.
This is blue, Johnny.
She said the blue. Yeah, she said the blue. Okay.
Yes, I don't know.
This is it, huh?
Yep.
I know, I noticed.
Give it to me. I couldn't do that. It weren't working. Adam, give it to me. I'll take it out. I'm afraid I can't stop. When this camera just pack it off. Oh look, is that one of the sisters? No.
No, it's not a victim.
Bye.